Hey, there, it's me, Eden. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and visit my Patreon page for early access. Link in the comment, thanks. She'll try and make a good job of him too, just to spite me. Anita went on, bitterly. I heard her say she'd bought a really nice long blonde wig for him, and talking with her mate Jenny about how good he looked in it. I thought about this. Well, he probably would, I suppose. I know, she snapped angrily. She then turned to me with an earnest look on her face. But you've got to help me beat her. She'll make my life hell if Peter does better in this contest than you. But why? I asked. She just will. She'll say it's because I don't know anything about makeup or fashion. She'll say I made you all dowdy because I'm dowdy, whereas Peter won because she got him to be pretty just like her. I don't think she's that pretty, I said. This was not entirely true. I had rarely spoken to Chrissy out of loyalty to Anita, but I could hardly deny that she was pretty. Most of the boys did, and Chrissy knew it. She does, Anita grumbled, folding her arms and looking cross. She thinks she's the bee's knees, the prettiest girl in school. Well, I don't think that, I said, staring at Anita's face, turned down though it was. There was a silence for a while, before I continued. Well, I'll do what I can for you, Anita. I'm not sure I make such a good girl as you say, but I'll try my best. She looked up at me and smiled. Thanks, Steve. Several times during our conversation I had wondered whether to try and kiss her. This seemed the best moment of all, so I began to summon my courage, turning to ready myself. You need to straighten your skirt out a bit, she whispered to me, pointing at my leg. She was right. My skirt had ridden quite a way up, and was revealing the scalloped hem of the slip. I lifted myself to straighten it, and to my dismay, Anita stood up. My moment had passed. She walked elegantly over to the hi-fi, and changed the CD. I gazed longingly at her as she considered what to put on next. Downstairs I heard the doorbell. I guessed that it was the arrival of the pizzas. Soon I would have to go downstairs and run the gauntlet of eating with her parents. Anita didn't seem to have heard it, and carried on musing over her music collection beautifully. Her mother shouted up the stairs, and Anita looked up. Sounds like dinner's ready. Shall we go? She walked to the door, and I stood up to follow her. You can take your boots off actually, she said, looking at my legs. Most girls don't wear their shoes indoors. I sat back down and removed the boots, while Anita watched me. You're getting better at that, you know. You kept your knees together nicely. I didn't see a thing, well done. Thanks, I responded. If she wanted me to be good at being a girl, then I'd do my damnedest to comply for her. This practicing is helping. I knew it would, she replied, with the sweetest of smiles. Come on, let's go and eat. We went downstairs and through to the main room. Mr. and Mrs. Robinson had laid the table where I had had my makeup done earlier that day. The pizzas smelt appetizing and were set out on large white plates. The meal passed without major incident. Anita's parents kept trying to engage me in conversation, which I was trying to keep to a minimum, but Anita helped me out. It appeared I had recently moved down from Newcastle, as we had told Nikki's mum. I was really good at French, because I had lived there for a while, in Paris, apparently, as this was the only French city I could think of in a hurry. I didn't have a boyfriend yet, and true enough, like Anita, I was an only child. When we had finished eating, Anita went off to the kitchen to make some coffee, which alarmed me. I managed to keep the pretense together, though, agreeing with Mrs. Robinson that today's music was too loud, and disagreeing with Mr. Robinson that girls' skirts were too short these days. This last was a nice touch, I thought, especially in view of the one I was wearing myself. While we were drinking our coffee, Mr. Robinson went over and switched on the television. It suddenly occurred to me that I had not picked up the soccer results for that day, which was my normal interest on a Saturday afternoon, rather than fashion. Casually, I stood up from the table and went through to the lounge, standing beside him as the results summary was broadcast. "Do you like football then, Sarah?" he asked. I nodded. "A bit." "I suppose you support the Magpies then?" I was baffled by his comment for a moment, and then remembered that I came from Newcastle. "Oh no. Actually, I like Chelsea." "She fancies one of their players." Anita crowed from the table. "Which one was it, Sarah?" Mr. Robinson turned to me and smiled. "It's all those muscled thighs, I expect." I blushed and looked intently at the screen instead. Chelsea had drawn, which was better than nothing. Anita offered to tidy the dinner things away, and I helped her. We took the plates through to the kitchen. "What was that about me fancying football players for?" I asked her accusingly. "Well, I had to help cover you for showing such an unhealthy interest in the scores," she retorted. "You could have given yourself away with that, you know." She was right, I had been careless. We stacked the dishwasher and decided to go back upstairs. "What shall we do tonight then?" Anita asked me. "I've got a stack of videos we could watch if you want, or we could just play some music." "I don't mind," I replied. A Saturday night in with Anita was my ultimate dream. "Well, we can watch a video later," Anita decided. "Before that we can just listen to some music and chat." I nodded in agreement. "Anita," I said, as she picked out another CD to play. "I need to go to the toilet." "Oh," she said. "It's just across the hall." I didn't move. She turned to look at me, confused. "Just across the hall," she repeated. "I know. But I've never been in a skirt before. Have you got any," I hesitated for a moment, "tips?" She laughed. "Haven't you been all day?" "Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah, I should have thought. You just have to sit down and pull it up at the back. It's easy." "Oh, thanks," I said, moving over to the doorway. "And you have to take your knickers and tights down as well, of course," Anita added. "Not all the way down. Just pull them down to your thighs." "Thanks." I went across the hallway and relieved myself as she suggested. It felt mighty weird sitting on the toilet and seeing two pairs of knickers and a pair of tights around my thighs, with the denim mini skirt, rather than my normal view. I got up and washed my hands, and saw myself in the mirror. I was shocked. I hadn't really looked at my face since that morning. The makeup had worn off a little, but with my long hair falling down either side of my face from the wig, I had to admit that I looked like a girl. I turned my head from one side to the other, quite a pretty girl too, I had to admit. Perhaps I might be able to do better than Peter Jones, and earn Anita's eternal gratitude. I finished in the bathroom and walked across to Anita's bedroom. Her mother was coming up the stairs. "We'd better fix you up with a bed, Sarah," she said, carrying a spare duvet and a pillow. "There's a guest bed under Anita's bed. All you have to do is pull it out. Do you think you and Anita will be able to manage that, or shall I send George up? Sometimes these things need a man's touch." I wondered who George was for a moment, then realized she meant her husband. "No, that's all right, Mrs. Robinson," I said brightly. "I'm sure Anita and I can manage. We're quite liberated these days." "Yes." "Well, here you are then, you take these," she said, handing me the duvet and pillows. "Thanks." I pushed the door of Anita's bedroom open and went on through. She stood up to help me, and we threw all the spare bedding onto her bed. "We can sort that out later," she said. "I was just looking through these videos." Which one do you fancy? I sat down on the bed and looked through the collection. They were all what we tended to call dismissively chick flicks, all about romance, and love conquers all obstacles. I hadn't seen any of them before, so it was all the same to me. I don't mind, I said. Are there any you haven't seen? Quite a few, she told me. I did the whole Brad Pitt set last month, because he's so yummy. But there's this one with Johnny Depp in, I like him too. She handed me the box, and I read the back. Apparently Johnny Depp was a gypsy who won the love of an unorthodox owner of a chocolate box or something. Yes, that should do. I replied, handing the box back to her. Okay, we'll put it on later. I've just remembered, I'm supposed to be ringing John, aren't I? Oh God, she declared, looking at the clock which said 6:45. I've left it a bit late. He's supposed to be here at 6:30. Still, he'll have to put up with it. Will you be all right here on your own? Yes, I'll be fine, I replied. Okay, I won't be a moment. She breezed through the door and off downstairs to make her phone call, and I was alone in her bedroom. I looked around, and after a while stood up to investigate. I'm not sure what I was looking for, perhaps some evidence of her hitherto well-disguised love for me. Would there be a little note somewhere, with my name in a heart? Needless to say there wasn't. I saw a collection of school books in the corner. I flicked through one or two, and saw that Anita's marks were consistently higher than mine. Still she hadn't returned. One of the drawers on the dresser was slightly opened. I looked in it. There was a small collection of jewelry and, making me blush, a box of tampons. I walked to the window. The curtains were undone, and being late May, it was still light outside. I leant on the windowsill and watched a few cars pass by. I thought of my current position and shook my head. I stood and looked down at my chest, hidden by Anita's lovely fluffy jumper, and saw my boobs jutting pertly away from me, just like hers did. I pulled a face to myself. I put my hand up and rubbed my ears. The throbbing caused by the screw-in earrings had long since passed, but I felt them still in place. God, no wonder everyone out in town had thought I was a girl, I was wearing so much stuff. I added it all up in my mind, the clothes and the jewelry. I made it come to 14 bits and pieces, without the makeup and the wig. I wondered if I'd ever worn so much boy stuff. I doubted it. All this sacrifice, and still no nearer to snogging Anita. Still, I told myself, I had her to myself all evening. That must give me some sort of chance. In fact, she was at that moment standing up her beloved John for me. That thought cheered me up considerably. I wandered back into the room and looked at myself in the mirror. My makeup really had faded quite a lot from how I'd remembered it the morning. Either that, or, God forbid, I was used to seeing myself in it now, and didn't notice it so much. I sat down on the small stool in front of the mirror, remembering to smooth my little skirt out as I did so, even though there was no one to watch. Please subscribe for the next part. And visit my Patreon page for early access.